Welcome to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast, a show where we talk about HVAC business ownership and financial freedom by sharing stories and advice of experts who can help you get there. Now your host, John Victoria.
Hello and welcome to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, John Victoria, and today we have a fun episode for you. We are talking why digital marketing sucks. And this is a tough one because, a lot of contractors, you've worked with a digital marketing company in the past, you might have been burned, and so you might relate to a number of things that are said here. But also, as you guys probably know, I also run a digital marketing company, so this should be a fun conversation to have. So before we jump into things, just a quick intro to our guest. Jake is the owner of Hite Digital Eugene, a digital marketing agency that protects owners from themselves by ensuring they don't screw up their online presence. But seriously, Hite Digital Eugene has helped hundreds of businesses and companies clarify their message, choose their marketing methods, create their materials, and control their momentum. Specializing in SEO, Google services, social media marketing, web design, and branding, Hite Digital is one of the fastest growing companies, private companies in the U.S. 868 on the Inc. 5000. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
And the book, which is coming out in less than 30 days, it's called Digital Marketing Sucks. It'll be available for pre-sale December 12th on Amazon. Jake, welcome to the show.
John, thanks for having me, man. I'm so excited to be here. And digital marketing does suck. I'm just calling out the elephant in the room, man.
Yes, and it sucks. Yeah, it's like, Google's always changing, Facebook's always changing, and also just taking the side of the business owner who's hiring. You just don't know how to inspect what to expect. One of the big phrases they shared with us in the Navy. So, I'm excited to break down some of those things that do suck and also some solutions for some people. But before we hop in, I want everyone to get to know you a bit better. Where you are today is not where you started.
I think
you started as a,
I started working at a skateboard shop at 15, man. I mean, it goes back. No, I mean, my heartbeat for not just for business owners, but for people in general, right, is I want to help them find freedom inside and outside of whatever it is that is their chosen employment. That's really what I want. I really want people to be there. And so I have an incredibly diverse background. I was born and raised in Alaska. I worked at skateboard shops. I worked at lawyers' offices. I worked at restaurants. I've been maintenance in public schools. I've done coffee shops. That was my favorite job, working as a barista. All of that informed leading up to where I entered into the full-time employment, which was, as you and I've talked about before, I'd spent 10 years in pastoral ministry, working at a church. And I wasn't a very good pastor. I just liked Jesus enough that they kept me around. And so I have far too many tattoos and was playing in bar bands. And no, it was all good. But, I worked with middle school and high school kids for years. Then I got demoted to work with adults. So that was fun. But I played music in bands. I've done all kinds of stuff and lots of work with nonprofit organizations and community. And so that all informs the reason and the way that I do marketing. It's all of those experiences.
Wow. I love that. And would not have guessed. Yeah. It's, would not have guessed.
It's a very confusing resume. I'll put it that way. So yeah, it's, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so you did that for a bit, and then you transitioned at a time into digital marketing. So why did you make that leap specifically into digital marketing? Of all things, right? It was a very, a very diverse background, but why specifically digital marketing?
Yeah, I found a need, right? I found a need, and my background, my undergrad is in English communications. I've done a lot of writing. I used to literally edit master's and doctoral theses for people, right? I've been a communicator for a very long time. I'm also pretty technical, and automation was a big part of what I did when I was working with organizations, was just streamlining their system. And the deeper I got into that with them, the deeper I got into this with businesses. So whether they were businesses that we were working with nonprofits, whether they were organizations, and started finding out that the complexity of their online presence was getting worse. It was getting more complicated. And I saw this need to be able to go and serve the business owners and in turn serve the consumer, who was me, right? So as I'm going on and trying to book events for my family, as I'm getting quotes from HVAC companies for new AC, I started realizing this is just getting more complicated for them. And so literally started my business from my dining room table on a laptop with when my third kid was born, and I have a picture of her on my shoulder and me like 9:00 at night building my marketing agency. And we did it on this single phrase. We called it marketing for humans. And the idea was simple. It was the business owner as a human being working with us, the marketing agency, who are human beings looking for human beings to do business with. And so we were going to business owners and we were hearing just these nightmare stories of their previous experience with marketing agencies. And I mean, I couldn't argue with it because it was exactly what I was seeing across the marketing world on social media, on different networking platforms. I was seeing these just like terrible statements from marketing agency owners that would say things like, do you run advertisements from the client's ad account or from your ad account? Because if I run it from their ad account, I don't have leverage anymore for if the company leaves me. And I was going, oh, I couldn't even believe that was even being said. I'm going, you're having a conversation about leverage here. What if you had a conversation about humanity? Like, what if you had a conversation about like what's best for that business owner? And so, long story short, was working in that. And then I came across a network called Master Hackers, where I found a number of marketing agencies that shared the same values I did, which was honesty, transparency, and caring for people. Thus, I met John Victoria. So.
No, I resonate so much with what you said. I mean, I just had a story come up today. So one of our clients, they work with another agency as well in concurrence with us. And the agency was telling them, hey, you don't need all these tracking numbers. You just need one number to send everything to, like your direct visits, your webs, your ads visits, your SEO visits. And they were vehemently saying like, hey, you should really do this. And I'm thinking, what? I am so confused because for me, like very similar to you, my core values, it's around transparency and accountability, right? And so tracking numbers are so key to properly know where things are coming from. And, if this company, they have one number, there's no tracking on it, how can we possibly show like, things are happening the way that need to be happening?
Absolutely.
It's complete, someone's blinded. And so yeah, it's happening up until this day, end of 2022, and I'm recording this. I'm always just flabbergasted. And these are big companies too. They're not small companies. I'm flabbergasted. And this is why I'm so excited to talk to everyone about today's topic, because it's not just something that you're frustrated with as an HVAC business owner, or if you're in the trades. Like, it's something that we as digital marketers are also frustrated about.
Absolutely. And what should concern the business owner is I had shirts made. I chose not to wear it today, but I have shirts made that say digital marketing sucks on them with my logo on the shoulder. And when I released the first image of me wearing that shirt, my DMs blew up with other marketers that wanted the shirt. That should concern you as a business owner. The people that do this full time for a living, that funds their livelihood and funds the livelihood of all of their team members and employees, agree that digital marketing is pretty miserable. So the idea that the business owner can take that on. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, I know a lot about digital marketing. I would never take the job as a director of marketing for a business that didn't have a substantial team behind it. I would not be a one-man show for an organization because it has gotten so complex and so messy. I mean, for example, Meta just laid off 11,000 employees last week.
Yeah.
We spend over $1 million a month in advertisements with them. We can't get a hold of anybody there.
Wow.
And we used to have direct lines into Meta, into Facebook. And they just laid off 11,000 employees. I mean, it's something to say that their their customer service has gotten worse. Like, you didn't think that was possible. Yeah. You just found out that it was, right? And so if something happens to your Facebook page or someone happens to your Instagram account, what do you do as a business owner?
That's a scary thing, right? Those are lead generating assets for you.
Absolutely.
And so I'd say for most companies, they are not spending anywhere close to $1 million a month. And so if the $1 million a month company is not getting any response, we can only imagine what's happening for the smaller business accounts that are spending $500 a month, maybe $1,000, $2,000, which is a large chunk of small business owners out there. You know, they don't have the budget to do such a big thing.
That's probably most of their monthly marketing budget, right?
Yes.
And so what happens when that gets compromised? Absolutely.
Exactly. So I guess with that, it sounds like these experiences, right? We as digital marketers, as well as small business owners, this is what led you to want to write this book. Was there other experiences that was the inspiration for the book, or?
I mean, I often tell my team, like, I operate on like the negative side of optimism. It is humanly impossible for me to sugarcoat things. And so digital marketing sucks really comes out of just the way that I talk about business, right? But it also came out of a number of requests from clients. I had a number of clients come to me and say, hey, you're the 4th marketing agency that I've worked with. And finally, we're getting answers. Okay, notice what I said there. We're getting answers. This wasn't even about getting results yet. This was just about getting answers that were right. Like, to your point, like other marketing agencies saying like one phone number, you shouldn't have tracking numbers. They were just literally like stumped on what the foundation should be. And how do they educate themselves so that when they engage in the conversation about marketing, they're able to hold their own? Because I found business owners having to get defensive for themselves and for their team against the agency, which shows me that there wasn't a partnership. There wasn't someone working on their behalf. That was legitimately like a conflict of interest. And so I had a number of clients come to me and say, hey, Jake, you're the first team that we've worked with that we feel like we can trust. Would you be willing to like document this? Can you write this down? What do we as business owners need to know before we even dive into this space? And so I put this off for a little while, because I really had a bit of an imposter syndrome, if I'm totally honest, of going like, man, I know people that have been in the marketing world longer than I have. I know people that have, done this much in revenue and helped other, but it just kept coming back like a boomerang and hitting me in the face. And finally I said, okay, let's do this. And so that's a lot of where it came down to. I also pride myself on being able to take really complex things and just simplify them.
Yes.
That's something I've worked very, very hard at over the last 15 years in businesses and organizations and things like that, of just being able to take a room of people that are all throwing out ideas and brainstorming and just taking it and simplifying it and moving it forward. So this felt like a topic that I had passion, experience, and then the push to finally tackle what that came down to.
I love that. And so let's dig in. So let's talk about some of these things that make digital marketing suck. Where would you like to start? I mean, we go all day, and we won't reveal everything, right? I want to save some stuff.
I have no problem with giving away as much information as needed, because at the end of the day, this is about being helpful, right? The least sexy topic in all of digital marketing, and I've been working with my graphic designer being like, how do we make this topic more sexy, is login management, John. It's login management. If you want to lay the foundation for your digital marketing and make sure, and this came out of a conversation with a prospect that blew my mind. They called me because most prospects call and say, hey, we want to grow our business. hey, we want to make sure that our website, that our social media, that everything, that it's moving forward. I had a prospect call me and they said, we would like to grow. That'd be great. But more than anything, we don't want our online presence to be a liability. We don't want it to be losing us business. And I went, holy smokes. Like, that's not what I was expecting from that conversation.
Wow.
So as we onboard new client, and to be clear, we have at Hite, I have to get the number accurately, but we have something like 25 locations. So I'm here in Oregon, in one of the Oregon locations, but we have something like over 800 clients. Okay. It's a really diverse client base. We specialize really in booking based companies and weird stuff. I've heard of kind of like, what niche are you in, Jake, at Hite Digital Eugene? It's like booking based companies and weird stuff. So to give you an example, there was one point where we were doing marketing for a midwife and we were doing marketing for a really high end cemetery in Florida. So we just told everybody, like, we cover businesses from birth to death. Like, we just go the full spectrum there.
Cycle, yeah.
But we also work with a lot of like really unique like software projects or with escape room companies. We also have more typical like property management, some home service and things like that. So we've seen the full gamut. The one thing that holds up everything is account access. It's the one thing that holds up everything when we're trying to get moving forward is username and password management. Okay. How serious is this? And why would I dedicate an entire chapter in the book to login management? And why the hell would anybody read something as boring as that? It's for this reason. Access equals ownership. Access equals ownership. If somebody has access to your account at an administrative level or at the ability to make changes, whether that's to ownership or to management or whatever it is, they pretty much have ownership. And you can argue this all day. You can say, no. I'm the one that opened the account. Legally, the business is mine, all these kind of things. As soon as you lose access to a social media account, to a Google Ads account, to your Google My Business profile, to your domain, good luck proving ownership. And I say this because we've watched $100 million a year companies almost lose their business because they didn't have access to their website domain. And some of you might be hearing that being like, I still don't get it, Jake. Understand this. If I have access to your domain, I now have access to your email, which means I can send emails as you requesting financial information, requesting all kinds of different access. And I've seen some crazy stuff here. And you might be like, well, I have access to that, right? I've got the logins for it. Real life scenario. We were onboarding a new client. We went to get access to their domain, couldn't get it. They had an email listed, but it didn't have the full name. It just had like first letter, bunch of asterisks, last letter, and then we knew what the domain was. We said, whose email is that? And they said, well, it's nobody in our office. I'm like, well, it's somebody. And whoever it is, that's where the password reset's going to. Come to find out, it was one of their employees that they had let go 4 years ago that was still listed as the account recovery. And what had happened to her email address? It'd been dissolved, which means there was no inbox for that email address. And we went to and we completely petitioned the domain registrar, the whole 9 yards, could not get access to it. This is literally putting at risk $100 million a year company. Why? One singular account access.
Wow.
Told you, not a sexy topic, right? But it is the thing. And like a bunch of the business networks I'm in, they joke like, Jake's the login guy. Like, I just obsess over this kind of stuff. Because also, go try to watch Netflix at your house if you don't have the logins for it. What do you end up spending the entire evening doing rather than watching a movie? Trying to reset your password. So what this comes down to at the end of the day is freedom for you and freeing up your time. Right? The benefit to having all of your access, your account access ready to go is it actually gives you freedom to do the things you want to do. That's why I harp on this so bad, right? You could free up an extra hour of your day if you just had all of your passwords managed in the correct way. So there's my biggest soapbox, John.
No, and I think there's two threads I want to pull on. So you mentioned, I think one potential solution is redundancy. So it's like we've had this happen where it's like there's like one employee who's gone, and like there needs to be some form of redundancy. Like it can't be a single point of failure. But then second, you need to have your accesses, but I think of logins like a door. You want it to be able to open up smoothly, but also it needs to protect, folks from breaking in. I've had so many business owners ask, hey, please share me with your password so we can get to the accounts. It is like password, or it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, guys, no.
And there's so many tools out there. There's so many tools out there. There's OnePass, there's LastPass. I'm working with a new software that's going to be released here in the beginning of the year that came out of, this is crazy. It came out of the funeral home industry. You're like, why the hell did that happen, right? Because guess what happens when someone passes away? You need records, documents, account access, and then come to find out no one had it. So they developed a software to help with that. That's how far this goes. Like, I can't stress this enough. Like, if someone passes away and you don't have account access, there's risk of losing funds. Like, this is such a just crazy topic to me that of all the fun things we can talk about in marketing, like graphic design and media and stuff like that, I think this is the biggest issue. It's crazy.
Wow. It's nuts because
we talk about more fun stuff, but it's like
it's the starting point. So
it has to be. It's the front door.
So takeaways for everyone, like redundancy. Make sure you have some redundancy. Make sure you use some. Like for us, we use LastPass. There's other.
We use OnePass. Game changer.
Okay. And it's
great. So what's next after that, right? So because you get into if you have all your access, digital marketing is going to suck less. It's still going to suck, but it's going to suck less. Okay. So now what? Now what do we do? And I would say that the biggest question I get asked all the time from business owners is, what's the biggest bang for my buck in marketing? Because we have marketing packages that go into the multiple thousands, and people are scared to touch that, right? Why? Well, cost, liability, certainty, right? Am I going to get the money back here? Here's what I think way too many businesses ignore, and that is leveraging your existing database, your existing clientele. What do I mean by that? Okay, we work a lot of booking-based companies, tour companies, beachfront resorts, escape rooms. Like, we've got some really axe-throwing companies. We got some really weird, unique stuff, right? Shout out to Eugene, Oregon, okay? Your database, I can almost guarantee you 20% of the people in your database are ready to pay you today. But what happens is people just end up keeping it there and just storing it. And it's just their book of business that someday, I see this all the time with HVAC, with home services. They always want to sell their book of business when they sell the company. And they look at that as being a big profitable thing. The problem is they don't view it that way while they're running the business. They look at it as their client base going like, man, I can sell you all my equipment. I can sell you all my assets and my book of business. That's going to be worth this many millions of dollars. But on a day-to-day basis, there are people in there that are either willing to pay you money or know people that are going to pay you money. And so when you leverage your database, and if you are a business owner today and you are not texting as a business, and there are tons of platforms out there. I was talking to someone who's one of the largest insurance marketing agencies in literally Canada and the US. They said they ran a survey. 98% of the people that they surveyed said texting was a preferred method of communication.
Wow.
98%.
Jeez.
So we get so stuck on email, which I'm a huge fan of. We get so stuck on phone calls. If you're not texting and leveraging that, and you're just sending out a single text message and then creating the follow-up to that to make sure that you've got an office staff or whoever it is, a sales team that's ready to take advantage of that response, you're literally watching money just fall through the cracks. And so you want to make digital marketing suck less, leverage what you already have. You don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars developing this whole new, channel. Use what you already have.
Yeah, and it's like the best business comes from people who already know, like, and trust you. And so you have this database, And also just thinking in terms of timing. So it's currently November 15th, 2022. HVAC, we're in slow shoulder season. It's a little bit slower this time of year. And, if you're going to try to start something like SEO, like it's going to take 3 to 6 months at least, if not longer. And so if you're looking to pick up business during this time, to Jake's point, you have everything you need, right? You already, as long as you're getting the customer information, you got potentially a number, potentially address and phone number or email. Send something out to them, whether that's calling them up, an offer, a tune-up, something.
Just even front of mind awareness, right? Now, you might be hearing these two things, like anyone's listening right now is like, this book sounds miserable. You might be hearing
I'm about to be depressed.
You're talking about login management. You're talking about email marketing. Like, for the love of God. Okay, I want to be clear. The book's actually going to be pretty funny. So there's that. Also, here's what I guarantee to everyone that reads the book is you're going to be getting a whole bunch of checklists and guides that you can knock this stuff out immediately. So if you're an owner that's listening to this going like, good Lord, this guy just sounds like nerdy as can be, and this is going to be a nightmare. My hope for you is that you're able to look at this and there are just like 9 practical things that you could do very quickly, or you could hand to an administrator, hand to an office staff, hand to a marketing director and say, can you make sure that all of these things are taken care of? Right. So we're actively working on a checklist, and frankly, it's growing, and it's growing categorically, saying, hey, here's the things you need. Here's the things you need. What's really fun is we're convinced it's going to work for any business. So we actually, when we initially started this checklist, we started it with a tap house, with a brewery. And we said, hey, we have a checklist we're putting together. This has been months in the works. There's a tap house. We want to make sure that you guys have all this stuff taken care of, and we think you're going to make more money right away. And they said, great. And so frankly, they started giving us free beer, and we were trading them for that. And it seems like a pretty good deal. So.
Man, what a deal, right? Free beer. Who can
we literally
that,
we go to the brewery, we work on
the
checklist, and then they give us drinks. It's like it works out just fine. But no, I want to make sure that everyone knows that. And I've got a sign up for you if you're interested in learning more about the book. I'm going to send you a bunch of resources. I want to make sure, again, this book is not about me making a whole bunch of money and getting famous here. This book is about making sure that you as a business owner have what you need to be successful. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. That's what I want this to be about. So
love that. And yeah, maybe we can hit one more from the list, and maybe a fun one could be around either clarifying your message or knowing your audience. Because I feel like that is that's a key foundation. So what do you feel like? What will be more fun to talk about between those two?
Oh man, I love both of them. Let's talk about knowing your audience. I think that this has become an overused term. Or that phrase, knowing your audience, right? So you hear people talk about client avatar, and I was like, what does that even mean, right? Here's how you simplify this, especially if you're in the home services. Are you more likely to interrupt somebody's day and get them to do business with you? Or are you more likely to be someone that someone is going to go looking for? That's really the difference in marketing. That's all it is. Are you someone that's going to be searched for or scrolled upon? And so I've seen people that are like in the chiropractic, industry. They're like investing heavily in their like social media content. They're hiring somebody and stuff like that. You know who looks for chiropractors? People that are in physical pain. And so as simple as it is, just pick which one you're going to put the most focus on. Now, there's different ways of hitting both of those, right? But focus. People are not following cemeteries and social media for fun. I can tell you that because we work with a cemetery, right? Unless you are a hilarious HVAC owner, chances are people aren't following you either unless they're your friends or they are your relatives. Okay, that's pretty much what it is. So if you're not doing SEO as an HVAC company, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. That is as much what I mean about, and I know a really good HVAC SEO team, by the way. I might be talking to him right now. And if it's sometimes it's as simple as that. So we talk all the time about creating these avatars of like, are they men? Are they women? Are they this age? Are they that age? That kind of stuff. Sometimes your client, your audience comes down to what their like tendency is to go and find you. And I think we miss out on that opportunity. It's the action that's involved to get to you. Now, we also want to speak to, for sure, the type of person. Give you an example, okay? Escape rooms. John, who do you think the target audience is for escape rooms? Just by what you know about them. Who's going to go play them?
I'm imagining, I don't know, teenagers pop to mind.
Absolutely, right? Do we advertise to teenagers?
I'm putting
you on the spot.
I hope you do.
Here's what we found. You know who knocks it out of the park in escape room advertising? Moms of teenagers.
Yep.
Ages 35 to 55 nationwide are the #1 targeting for immersive experience companies.
Wow. Yep.
Because you got to think about this logically and realize, number one, teenagers don't have money. Number two, they have a super short attention span, right? So if I go target them, and I've watched this happen with people that like they send us their ad account, we look into it and realize like it's just totally mistargeted. Who are the people that are willing to actually spend the money? So as you as an HVAC company, as you as a home service provider, you have to think about who it is that's actually spending the money. Who's the decision maker in households? Most of the time, it's the mom. When it comes to family events, when it comes to corporate events, most of the administration in the office or most of like the event planner for a corporate is a woman. Statistically, that's the case, right? So when I say know your audience, it's twofold. It's how are they going to find you, and then who's most likely to be the one that makes the decision. That's the biggest thing that I see. So you want to make your digital marketing suck less. Stop committing random acts of marketing. They should be a finable offense. If you feel like you should be doing something, that should be a red flag to you. You need to stop and do a full assessment. So this is where I see people do stuff all the time where they sponsor literally like something that's attached to shopping carts, or they like slap up a billboard on some edge of town, right? Because they feel better about making progress in their marketing. You want to make digital marketing suck less. You have to understand logically who is the decision maker that's going to give your company money, and then focus completely on them. It's going to save you a ton of money.
I love that. And I love how you're also, it's not just that avatar of that person, but it's like the life circumstances. So,
right.
For example, in HVAC, depending on the time of year, that can impact things pretty heavily. Like your heater goes out during the summer, whoop-de-doo. Goes out in the winter. Okay, well, someone's life could be at risk there, especially if there's elderly and children.
Absolutely.
So the context of someone's life could be a life event. Maybe someone just moved to a new location. Maybe it's an investor who's fixing something up. Just like thinking through the different life situations that would trigger someone to search for you. And they're not all gonna be the same, right? It's like thinking through those things that can help to carve out your marketing, and eventually you'll end up spending less because you are speaking to that life situation and that person versus just shotgunning your marketing and just trying to get it in front of everybody.
Oh yeah, no, we put in I live in Oregon, right? It's not super hot where we are. We put in an AC unit in our house. Like a full heat pump and everything else. Our life is so much better than it used to be. And it was one of those things where we only need it for like a short season every year. But why did we do it? Because we had little kids. Right. And so I'm the perfect avatar like for HVAC companies, right? It's like I love that life circumstances this is marketing for humans. This is marketing for humans at its core. What is the life circumstances your clients are going to, and how can you care for them? Not how do you make more money? Making more money is just a lag measure. It's something that happens naturally as a result of you taking care of people. So what is your litmus test as a business owner to take care of people? That's going to make your digital marketing suck a whole lot less if you start thinking about it in that terms.
Man, I love it. And so in terms of like the book, so we talked about 3. I don't think we have time to go over everything, but like,
we don't.
What are the so how many total are there that people can look forward to reading about?
There's 9. There's 9 of them. And I've given this talk on podcasts, given it seminars. I've tested this theory And I've done just recently, last 2 weeks, I've done 15 interviews with business owners. I wanted to test this in every different industry. And I've been super, super encouraged by the response from people that have said, this is some of the most practical advice I've seen in a long time. Because in digital marketing, it's really split into two different categories. There's creative and there's technical. And everything that you've been taught historically about marketing is about creativity. It's how do you have good graphics or good images, and how do you speak in such a way that's creative? And we miss the technical side. What's happening, and I'm seeing a lot of the just industry information from marketing agencies, is they talk to business owners about the technical side, and it is super overwhelming. It's super overwhelming, all the technical side. So if you are a business owner who says, man, I don't get the technical side, find a good agency and have them take care of that stuff. Just plain and simple. You want to save yourself a massive headache? Do that. Okay. So I want to be able to take holistically both sides of that and have a really down-to-earth conversation, street-level communication. How do you as a business owner know what you should do to lay that foundation? So there's 9 things that I believe are central to that conversation.
Of that end, 27 days until book launch. How can people sign up for notifications so that they can buy it for the pre-sale? Like, how can they find the book?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've got kind of a sign up page. It's launch.jakezufelt.com. And here's what that is. So number one, you're going to get information about that coming up. Also, if you're willing to join my launch team, here's what that means. The day that the book is going live for pre-sale on Amazon, December 12th, happens to also be my birthday. So I'm going to become an Amazon bestseller on my birthday. That's my birthday present. And what that's also going to become, I want to make sure people know, like, you're not signing up for me to like spam you. That's not at all what this is. And I always want to clarify that. I want to be able to offer you resources moving forward. So if you sign up on that, all I'm asking you to do is the day that the book goes live, if you'd go buy a copy, we're going to pre-sell the book. We're pre-selling the ebook. I should clarify that. We're pre-selling the ebook on Amazon for 99 cents. If you're willing to buy a copy for 99 cents and help me hit that bestseller, I would be forever grateful for you. Also, I'll be reaching out later with resources and making sure that people have what they need to move forward. That's going to be a separate list at another time. So it's not like you're signing up for emails and text messages from Jake for the rest of your life. I don't even want those. So, I don't want you to get stuck in that. But if you're willing to do that, you're going to get a bunch of information about the book, some resources. We are putting a course together as well, which I'm excited about. It's going to be a very affordable way for you. And if you have a marketing director or a social media manager, or whatever, to take that course, it's going to walk you through in a very practical level how to exercise all 9 of these things. I think it's just going to be immense value for a lot of business owners that want to make sure that they've firmed up that foundation for their online presence. So launch.jakezufelt.com and sign up for that. You'll get a welcome text message from me joining the team. And that would be amazing.
Love it. Let's call the shot now. Jake is a best-selling author. Let's just call it.
That sounds pretty good. So 28 days before that goes live on Amazon. I'll ask you to share it on your social media too if you sign up on the launch team. Obviously, that's up to you as to whether you do that or not. But just as a way of getting the word out. Again, I just really want to help business owners. I want to make sure that they have clarity and confidence in their online presence.
Love it. So. Yes, I guess we're closing up on the show, but there's a few questions I want to ask that are aside from digital marketing.
Yeah, let's hear it.
One trend that I noticed in your life is that you're just the person that is able to reinvent themselves, and I think that requires a certain mindset to do that. So I was wondering if you could speak to your philosophy on doing that, because you're a pastor at one point, digital marketing, and it's just like, and you're all these different roles. Could you speak to that flexibility and reinventing yourself?
Wow. That's an amazing question, John. Mindset, I feel like, is such an overused term right now. I'll just be very upfront with you. And like I said, I'm about to sugarcoating. I went through years of counseling, 2 different counselors. working through stuff that had happened for me growing up, working through transition, stuff like that. As a pastor, I was working in very difficult situations for a very long time. The greatest thing that ever happened to me was getting to the point to where I couldn't fix something in my life and I had to call somebody else for help. It was the hardest and the best day of my life. And so I worked with a counselor for years. And as a business owner, one of the things I think we neglect a ton is our own emotions. And so we hear a lot about work-life balance. We hear a lot about time management, about freeing up yourself, about learning to delegate, about having like a growth mindset and, 10x everything, all that kind of stuff, right? That's all well and good if the motives are where they need to be. But what I found to be very interesting as I left the pastoral world and as I entered the business world is I was seeing the exact same mindset in both of them. And that was this: you can do the exact same thing as somebody else, and both of you have completely different motives for it. And one of them is healthier than the other. And when I mean that, I say, is one of those feeling avoidant, or is one of those based on things like intentional just direction and motivation? And so literally, like, my wife and I had this, like, this might sound crazy to a lot of people, and you might be like, I'm turning this podcast off now. We had this chart on our refrigerator that our counselor gave us that had the 8 core feelings that everybody feels all the time. And then we had on one side of that chart negative versions of those feelings. And on the other side, we had repaired versions of those feelings. Okay. I'll give you an example. One of the feelings we feel all the time is fear. Is fear a good thing or a bad thing, John?
Yes, depends on the context,
Depends on the context, right? So we look at fear as a negative thing. And so as I was going and kind of making this transition and sort of like, I think reinventing myself is an interesting way to put it. I've never put it that way, but I connect with that. There's a ton of fear there. Okay. Now here's what's interesting. What we think of oftentimes when we think of impaired fear is like just, debilitating stuff. Fear negative can be 2 things. It can be anxiety, which, to be clear, I deal with anxiety on like a very like physiological level. So I know the difference between like just having, I live in Oregon, like seasonal depression's a thing, right? So I'm aware of it when it's just that, but I'm aware when it's anxiety, where I'm literally ignoring my feeling of fear. And so what happens is my body just takes on all of that. So rather than being at peace with my fear, I would do that. The other thing people don't realize, and this is going to hit home for a lot of dudes, rage is impaired fear. We often think of someone being very angry. It's actually rage. And rage is when you are so upset, like you would do things you typically wouldn't do. And I'm not talking about like physically hurting somebody. I'm talking about like saying things or doing things that are completely illogical, right? What's the opposite side? What's the repaired version of fear? It's courage. It's courage to do the things even though you're still afraid. So the biggest thing I had to come to peace with as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, was fear. And I had to understand that I am still going to do things, for example, like writing and publishing a book. Believe me when I say I had fear, because it's a decent financial commitment to doing what I'm doing, right? So I'm willing to tell you this. I borrowed from my retirement to do this book. That's how much I believe in it making a difference in people's lives.
Wow.
Is I wanted to literally take this out of my own, not my business finances, my own personal finances to make this happen. Okay. So that was the biggest thing I had to learn, is I had to come to peace with feelings, and really strong feelings. So much that I went and got help, man. I talked to a counselor in order to make this happen.
That's one of the greatest acts of courage I could say. It's admitting like, hey, I need help, because we all want to appear a certain way.
Right.
We want to feel like we got it all down, and we want to look strong for all of our friends and our family and our mentors and all the people who believe in us. But it's such an act of courage to be so vulnerable and say, hey, I need some help. And I feel like that's where the best version of yourself gets unlocked, because you can actually get help on the thing that you need help with rather than covering it up. It's a vicious cycle. Never saying like, I need help, or being open to that?
I think posturing in business is one of the most nauseating things to me. When I see people just like putting just all of their just accolades and posturing just like up front, man, you know who I want to hang out with? I want to hang out with the people that are transparent. I don't care about your success level, right? I want to hang out with the people that are the rawest version of themselves. Yeah. It's good. It's really hard, but it's, man, one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life was that. So yeah.
Man, it's beautiful, and something we're all working through at all points.
100%. I've not arrived.
Yeah, same here. Definitely am very, very far off from that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess last thing I'd love to talk about is, I remember you mentioning earlier and also in our past conversations, like feeling that imposter syndrome. I think that's something that's very common with, I mean, I feel that all the time. Like you step into a new room. Do I actually know the things that I'm talking about? Especially if we've done different things in the past.
Yeah.
How have you found, you know, it's tough to like fully dissolve it. Like, what are some of the things that you do to help work through that emotion? Because, you know, for the person who is looking to become a business owner, who's like right now they're a technician, but they're like, hey, I want to start my own HVAC company, or the one they're at the 500K mark and they're looking to get to the million mark. You know, there's just like sometimes I just noticed there's like an identity thing. There's like some imposter syndrome of like, I don't belong here, that stops people from, you know, being okay with being at that next level. Like what are some of the things that you might have worked on to help process that feeling?
Yeah. I was given this advice. This is really funny advice. I'd been married for 3 years, I think. And I was asked to officiate my first wedding as a pastor. And I was young. We got married young, and I was really young. The couple that I was doing the ceremony for was older than me. And I was like, I remember sitting down with my boss and just saying like, I don't feel like I should be officiating this wedding. And he goes, how long have you been married? I said 3 years. He goes, how long have they been married? And I go, they're not yet. And he goes, great. You know more about marriage than they do. And it was such a funny just like example, but he was like, you don't have to know everything. You just have to have walked a little bit of the journey. That's all this comes down to. And so as business owners, it's not that you have to have hit all of your goals and marks. And in the marketing world, just like in the HVAC world, there's definitely categories of like from here to here in revenue are really hard to get over. And once you crack that, you're able to get to the next one, right? All you need to do is look at where you've been. And if there's anybody that's on that journey that's a little bit behind you, you have an authority in their life to speak into that. And so, you know, I've been in marketing a lot less than, less time than some of my business partners have. But they've been incredibly affirming to me of saying, Jake, look at the journey you went on. All of it is valuable for someone else that's going to go on the same journey. So speak to that, right? Talk about what you know. That's communication 101. Talk about what you know, right? And so if you're a technician looking to be an owner someday, understand that everything you're doing right now is valuable toward that day that you become an owner. And then when you hire technicians, understand that you've walked that journey before and you can help them in that. That's been the biggest thing for me. So when I get into this point where I'm in that imposter syndrome mindset, I just have to take a second and just remember where I've been all the way back. And I have the picture that I mentioned at the beginning of our interview of my youngest kid on my shoulder asleep and me sitting at the dining room table on a laptop and building my business as a reminder that there's been a lot of steps in between here. And all of it is valuable, both for me and for anybody that I get to mentor, coach, or bring along on that journey.
Amen to that. Remember the paths you've walked.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we tend to forget, like all the great things that we've been able to do and see, and always it's this comparison game, which I think leads to this imposter syndrome. There's always going to be someone who's a more experienced, there's always going to be that. And so just being comfortable with the path you've walked and being able to speak. It's like we said, like what you know.
Celebrating small wins. I'm a big wins guy. I like the big wins, like the milestones. Small wins, man. I had an employee the other day. Coincidentally, her husband's starting an HVAC company. Okay, and she's gonna help him with it. And she said something to him while I was on the call. And they don't live in the same state, but he's a friend of mine from years ago. We used to play punk rock music together. 20 years ago. And she looked at him and said, hey, I'm going to help you with this, but I'm not going to quit my job working with Jake and the team because I enjoy it too much.
Wow.
Okay. That is a win. That's a win right there. And I celebrate that. That's huge. And so, whether it's just accomplishing a job in an efficient amount of time or whatever it is, like, celebrate the wins as much as you possibly can. And then all of a sudden, when you get to that point where you find out, like, oh my gosh, I'm actually where I was hoping I was going to be. I think it's going to feel less foreign to people when they've celebrated the wins along the way. It's going to feel less like imposter syndrome when you realize you've had a lot of wins on your way to that point.
I love that. And I think that's something everyone needs to hear, even myself. So
I'm talking, preaching to the choir.
Love that.
The former pastor is preaching to the choir. So yeah.
All right. Any last parting words for everybody on digital marketing I
just want to encourage everybody. Like, you're not alone. Like, you're just not alone on this journey. Like I said, the best thing I ever did is ask for help. I hired someone. I wasn't bad at my books. I wasn't bad at finances, but I hired someone who was better at it than me. And when it comes to your website, to your digital marketing, to SEO, to automation, to just better ways of doing business, there are so many people out there that are so willing to give you their time and their advice for free. The best thing you can do is just ask for help. And so I just want every entrepreneur to know it is such a lonely journey to be an entrepreneur, but it doesn't have to be. John and I are in similar networks, which is how we connected. And, it's invaluable to have those networks and to be able to find help. So you're not alone.
You're not alone. And just to echo what you just said, Jake, digital marketing sucks, but it doesn't have to.
Doesn't
have to.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sure. So,
well, awesome. Cool. So I think we'll close it out.
Me, man.
Jake, thank you so much. I loved, digital marketing tidbits, as well as just like how to ask for help and become a better person. It's like, I think it's the stuff that a lot of people don't talk about. And I think it's the stuff that people really need to hear. And it really is healing in a way. So thank you for being open. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited for your book coming out. And man, it's 27. That's like a milestone thing in people's lives. So excited for you. We're calling it out. Bestseller. Gonna be a bestseller by your birthday, by the end of this year.
Feel the dreams, man.
Yeah. And everyone, like, please definitely buy the book, share it, and make sure that Jake hits that goal.
Appreciate that. Thank you, John.
Cool. So good seeing everybody. We'll catch you in the next one. Oh, and also last thing, as always, this podcast is sponsored by Pollyanna, digital marketing agency focusing on HVAC contractors. If you need any assistance with your SEO, your website, feel free to let us know. We're doing free audits. So definitely.
That's a sweet deal.
Right.
If you're listening, take advantage of that. Those audits are no joke.
Oh no, they are no joke, man. A lot of thinking, a lot of steam coming on my ears.
I'm doubling down on that. Y'all need to take John up on that. So
cool. Thank you, Jake. See everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one. All right, take care, everyone.